Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here with us this afternoon. My name is Sherry Aldis. I'm the director of the United Nations Regional Information Center in Brussels. And we cover communications for the United Nations in 22 countries in Western Europe and 13 languages. But I'm quite attached and very happy to be here today at the Frankfurt Book Fair because for the previous 7 years I was in charge of UN publications in New York. So very happy to be at the Frankfurt Book Fair with all of you today. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you who are attending today. We are doing a special edition of the SDG Media Zone at the Frankfurt Book Fair on the topic of taking climate action. So the SDG Media Zone, first of all, SDG, for those of you who don't know, is Sustainable Development Goals. And the SDG Media Zone really aims to engage people in conversations on the issues at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it gives a stage to the people, including the people you see here today, who are really driving change and progress on and debate on the issues that we are most concerned with and are most fundamental to us today. And we will be focusing on one of the most urgent and fundamental issues that we are faced with, and that is climate change. We know that there is a triple and self-inflicted planetary crisis of pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss that we have to tackle, and we have to do it now. We need to do it together. It takes collective effort. We are not making the necessary commitments that we need in order to attain the needed 1.5 degree limitation of global warming. We need to do more now. And this is the positive side, so it's not all gloom and doom because we know what we have to do. There is hope, we have a roadmap, and it is called the Sustainable Development Goals. We also have the Paris Climate Agreement, so we know exactly what we need to do in order to get there. The problem is we need to scale up our action as of right now. We have a couple of major events coming up that will also help us to get back on track. One is COP27 that will be taking place next month in Egypt, and we have COP15 on biodiversity in Montreal in December. So we have a few months when we can actually garner support and move forward with action that we need to take now. So we'll have two sessions this afternoon. The first one, which our current panelists are here for, is focusing on how young readers can support climate action and how we can support them to take action as well. And the second one is on how publishers can combat climate change. So we hope that you'll stay with us for an hour of discussion that will give you lots of food for thought. So to kick off our first session on young readers and climate action, I would like to introduce our speakers today. So I'm very happy to welcome Ms. Martina Stemann from the German Publishers and Booksellers Association and Ms. Akos Ofori-Mensah from Sub-Saharan Publishers in Ghana. I also have my colleague Irina Lumelski, the Chief of UN Publications in New York. So just a few words on each of our guests. Ms. Stemann is the head of sustainability at the German Publishers and Booksellers Association, and she's been part of the book industry for more than 15 years in various positions, including right here at the Frankfurt Book Fair, where she was responsible for international projects and business development. And you were also the director of shared value creation in CSR, and where you implemented sustainability projects in South America and Peru. And Ms. Ofori-Mensah is the CEO of Sub-Saharan Publishers in Ghana. Her publishing house publishes children's books, scholarly books, and school textbooks. Akos started her publishing house in the late 90s, and some of her titles have won some impressive prizes and awards, such as the UNESCO Prize for Children's Books Dealing with Disabilities. So many thanks to both of you and to Irina for joining us here today to talk about this very important topic about encouraging young readers to take action for climate. So Martina, I would like to start with you, if I may. Yeah. If you could please tell us about the new sustainability area of the German Booksellers and Publishers Association, and particularly how it relates to climate action.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Well, first of all, it all started this year when our new managing director, Peter Kraus vom Cleff, came to Börsenverein, and it was his first thing to put on the official agenda, the sustainability issues and the fact that we really wanted to tackle them. So we created this area, and we are aiming at two things basically. First thing is that we started with ourselves, and we are measuring our own carbon footprint at Börsenverein, at the related companies, and we're looking forward to have a certain guideline to take the respective initiatives in order to reduce emission, of course. And what we also did for the sector and for our members is create a working group that tries to bundle and to tackle the challenges that we have ahead of us. So we are going to work, we met this year at Frankfurt Book Fair for the first time. We are going to work in task forces, let's say divided into 3 task forces. As I said, first is production and logistics. The second one is eco-balancing, and the third one is sustainable managing. And this is, the first step to do, to create the structure and then to go ahead with everyone. And obviously, the main target of all these steps is climate action.
And is there anything in particular that you're doing to engage with young readers?
Yeah, very much. We were really happy to be able to incorporate the SDG Book Club, this beautiful idea, in an infrastructure that we already had for more than 60 years, which is the Reading Out Loud competition of Börsenverein, very well established, reaching out to 600 to 700 students a year, working together with schools, with teachers, with bookshops and libraries, with the neighborhood, with parents, of course. And as I said, the fact that it's so well established made the combination of our SDG Book Club with the reading competition very successful from the very first moment. So yeah, this is one of the ways to address the young readers immediately.
And quite recent, so you said it was the change in management that spurred you to actually take action. Is there anything else, and what has the reaction been within the association with the publishers?
Well, I think, like everyone, he was really, really happy to see that we're going to tackle that now as an association. And we had a great response from publishers and from booksellers and from our members in general. And also our cooperations with IPA, FEP are obviously headed into that direction too. I mean, there are so many things to do and we have to do them together. That's the only way to create networks and platforms and these things.
Thank you. Yes, it takes individual and collective action. There's no question. The publishing industry, as you know, is really very keen to make these changes now. It's very timely. And Akos, if I could maybe turn to you for a minute and ask you about how specifically children's publishing can contribute to combat climate action, to climate change, I should say, and take climate action.
Okay. I would just like to say that, you know, in Ghana in particular, we had a tradition about the environment. You know, like we had rivers where people could go and fetch water, but they were not supposed to do laundry in it. And there were times that people could go to a particular river or lake, you know, to fetch the water or go and clean the place up. And also, the places were kind of protected by the traditional authorities. So you could go to a certain forest to gather some firewood at a certain time. But at a certain period, people were not allowed in that forest. But all these traditional rules have been broken. People are doing exactly what they want. You know, they go and mess up the rivers, the lakes, and the forest. So the animals are also disappearing. And in fact, I'm ashamed to say it, but you can hardly see one clean river in Ghana at the moment. You know, a river like the Densu and, you know, Ofin and the rest, people are digging them. They are looking for gold and diamonds. Therefore, they put all kinds of machines and chemicals in the rivers, and all these rivers are being destroyed. So there are people who are also concerned about this destruction, and I got into the fight, as it were, you know, because I had a friend who was in charge of the Game and Wildlife department in Ghana, and he suggested that we do books on the environment. So we did readers on rivers, on trees, on animals, and gradually, you know, we got them into the schools. You know, Department of Game and Wildlife bought the books and distributed them to school children. And later on, I met an American girl who came to Ghana to do some practical social work. And he was working in a disadvantaged community. And again, he was trying to teach them through learning and reading and learning and socialization, how to protect their own community, so how to keep it clean, and how to consider other people, that we are not the only people who use the environment, but other people are also beneficiaries. Therefore, we must take care of them, and we must be careful as to what we do to the environment. And her work is the production of this book, Gizo Gizo.
Can you tell us a little bit about this book?
Yeah, this book is a story. It's a fiction about, three friends: a spider, the crab, and the frog. And they lived around a lagoon. They lived around a lagoon together. And the place was very good. They could get all they wanted to eat and everything. But then one day, the spider decided that he wanted to get rich. Therefore, he was going to look for diamonds and gold. And he started bringing machines and other things into the lagoon where they all lived. And within a short time, the lagoon was polluted, the fish in the lagoon died, and later on, the spider himself became sick. And the tree from which they could, one of the friends could take the leaves to make medicine for him, was also destroyed. So he had to go somewhere else to find the leaves to prepare the medicine for Spider. And when Spider eventually became well, he decided to stop, looking for gold and diamond. And he felt that his friendship with the crab and, the frog was more valuable to him than gold and diamonds, from the lagoon. So he worked very hard to restore the lagoon to its original, nature. And that is the story of this book. Yes.
Fantastic. And do you see an impact? Has children's behavior changed? Have people's behavior changed in Ghana with some of the publishing that you're doing? Are you seeing that you're moving the needle at all?
Well, I wouldn't say in the whole country as such, but in certain places, they observe the rules about certain traditions. Like they are not supposed to go to a certain water body at a certain time. The reason is that the traditional rulers believe that if people are going there all the time, they will go and pollute the water. Therefore, they should go there for, about 3 or 4 days in the week. The remaining days, they are not supposed to go there, and they can go and fetch the water from somewhere else. That is to protect the water body. The same thing applies to forests, for instance. Hunters were not allowed to go and hunt in certain forests, in certain areas, or even people were not allowed to go and fetch firewood from the forest. Again, the idea was that if people are using these forests, they are taking firewood, or they are killing the animals, for food and things like that all the time, eventually the forest will disappear. So that is it's a traditional way of preserving the environment. But in modern times, some people disrespect, these traditional rules and do what they like the spider did,
So we'll try and teach the children not to be like the
Yes.
spider through books like this. And I think this book was actually selected for the SDG Book Club.
Yes.
So very proud about that as well. And Irina, maybe I can turn to you on that. So the SDG Book Club is a program that the United Nations created a few years ago now with the International Publishers Association. And I think it's grown significantly since we first started it Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, of course, I'll be happy to. So it's just really so important to have our partners here. And we have many partners out in the world who support the Sustainable Development Goals Book Club, such as the Worzen Verein and the Sub-Saharan publishers. We also have International Board of Books for Young Children, young readers, I should say, IFLA, which is the International Federation of the Libraries, and European Booksellers Association, and Bologna Book Fair, who are our partners. So it's very important to have collaborators who will spread the word to different markets, to different audiences. We would like every child to be involved and to read the books from our lists. So the idea for the Sustainable Development Goals Book Club was that we would provide reading lists for each Sustainable Development Goal in 6 official languages of the United Nations, and that we would have, a way for anyone who wants to organize their own chapter and, have their own book club, whether they could have it in school, in the libraries, in the bookshop, among the family members. There's really no restrictions. There's some very simple guidelines, and we provide the materials how you can go ahead and do that. So since the inception, which, we really didn't think, that we would get where we are now, we have some regional book clubs, such as in different languages. So we have one in German, we have one in Norway, we have one in Africa, where we also have books in Kiswahili, we have one in Portugal, and we have one Brazilian Portuguese. Let's see if I didn't forget anyone. And one in Indonesia. So, and we're getting more requests to join, which we're very happy about. There's a potential Italian language book club, and we even have interest from Turkmenistan. So we would like everyone to have their own language book club. Please join. We want local books to be used. There's really no restrictions. So, just to say that since we started it and since the SDGs were introduced, the time for sort of learning about the SDGs is over. We would like people to act now, because we only have so little time till 2030 to achieve the SDGs. Obviously, the world situation and pandemic, put a bit of a dent in the progress, but, we all rallying together, and this is about the society at large, civil society, banding together corporations, governments. Amanda Gorman at the SDG moment, this General Assembly, said that she was daring the world leaders to do good. So we want everyone to do good so we can achieve these Sustainable Development Goals. So how do we engage young children? How do we educate them from the early age to grow? And it's basically they're growing up with the SDGs, and they will live in the post-SDG era after 2030. So we want them to take these principles. We want them to be passionate about climate action and other, SDG causes. So UN is doing a lot of work, not a lot of outreach, but really we need everyone to do this outreach. We produce materials that and publishers produce these wonderful books that really, in a very simple but profound way, explain why it's an absolute necessity for us to combat climate change, and everyone should join in climate action and act now.
Thank you, Irina. Absolutely. There's even an app called Act Now. On the idea of the different languages that you mentioned, we said that there's a recent SDG Book Club in German, so we're very proud and happy about that as well. But what do you see as the importance of having these sort of international book clubs, having them in local languages? How do you see the importance of that?
Well, I think that having this international common idea and the fact that there is a global commitment to certain, well, to the SDGs in general, but therefore to certain topics, makes the individual feel being part of something bigger. And this is, I think, very, very important for children today to feel that it's not only something which is spoken about in school or at home, but it's something that the whole world is looking at. And therefore, I think the international cooperation and the SDG Book Club, not only the local one, but knowing about this network of international book clubs is really, really important. I also believe that it's important to have regional independence in terms of choosing certain SDGs and decide on which one to focus on next.
And so I believe that you started the German SDG Book Club with what I would consider a difficult one. So SDG 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions, not necessarily an easy concept for children. You could have started with climate action or gender equality or poverty or hunger. Why did you choose SDG 16?
Well, if we look around us, I think it's next to climate action, probably the most obvious to focus on. I mean, peace and justice. We're surrounded by war, and when we started with the SDG Book Club, it had just started. So for us, peace and justice and strong institutions and democracy is really the topic to talk about to young readers. And we were surprised, not really surprised, but we were overwhelmed and happy to see when we put together the recommendation list, how many titles refer to these topics. So I don't even believe that it's a difficult one. I think it's something children are asking about all the time anyhow. I mean, I have to answer questions at home that are really difficult to answer, and it's great to have those recommendation lists for parents then to accompany the children in these different times, to understand a bit more what is actually going on. And there is one more thing I want to say. I believe in order to battle climate crisis or to address climate change and to really change things, you need peace in order to do so. In war times, no one will think about climate crisis, and this is something why it was too obvious for us that it had to be number 16 in order to start.
Thank you. And climate action coming soon?
I think so.
Okay. And Akko, same question to you maybe. So we know that the SDG Book Club exists. There's an African chapter in English, French, Arabic, and Kiswahili. What is the importance of that, of having local languages? And we could have even more local languages, obviously, in Africa. What do you think is the impact of having those local chapters?
Okay, in Ghana, when we in Ghana, when we started working on this book, for instance, we didn't have the SDGs in mind, and it was done, to change the practices in a certain community. In fact, this book is in 2 languages. This is the English version, and there is the Hausa version. Now, the Hausa version, because the community within which it was developed is basically a Hausa community. So we did, 2 languages, in that community. But then the Ministry of Education has adopted the book, so it's now a reader in all the primary schools in Ghana.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. It is so important to have local content, and this is so well adapted, obviously, to the communities that you're serving. And we think that the cultures, the languages, it's so important to come to children where they are and teach them these important lessons on how they can take action to really preserve the planet that they're living on, we're living on, and the future really is in their hands. So I think that I would like to stop here for this session. I would like to thank all 3 of you for being here on the panel this afternoon. Thanks to all of you for attending. I hope that you have some things that you can now think about and take away with you as you go. And I think that we'll just have a short break before we start our next session on publishers and climate action. Thank you.